my lovelies, hi, it's Emmy. Welcome back to another You Made What? Today I have a recipe for you that was requested, and it's called Raindrop Cake. I've never heard of it called by that name before, but in Japanese it's called Mizu Shingen mochi, and it's a type of clear jelly cake. So I learned about this a couple years ago on my friend Moso Gourmet's YouTube channel, and if you don't know them, I should put the link down below. And so I got the recipe inspiration for today's recipe from them. I did major tweaks, but I got my initial instructions and inspiration from them. And if you like these kind of fun experimental recipes, be sure to subscribe for more making. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, to a medium saucepan, we're gonna add 450 cc's of filtered water. Next, we're gonna add 1 gram of granulated sugar and mix this really well until it's nice and dissolved. Onto the sugar solution, we're going to sprinkle 1 gram of agar-agar. And I use the Telephone brand, and I found this in my local Asian market. Next, on medium-high heat, we're going to warm the solution up until the agar-agar dissolves. And you don't want to stir this too much because you don't want to create too many bubbles, so just swirl it in the pan. So after a few minutes, you want to check to see if the agar-agar has dissolved, and once it's dissolved, you can remove it from the heat. So here are the molds I used. They're actually used to make spherical ice cubes, but they work perfectly for this project. Pour the mixture into your mold, and you can either use a sphere mold like I'm using here, or you can use these half spheres as well. Then place the molds into the refrigerator until the agar-agar sets, and this time will depend on the size of your mold. So it took me 3 times to get this recipe right, and I just wanted to show you the first 2 attempts, so if you have any trouble, you can kind of problem solve with my examples here. So this is attempt number 1 using the Moso Gourmet recipe, and as you can see, not at all clear and very, very hard. So for attempt number 2, I scaled way back on the agar-agar, and it was still frosty and not jelly enough. So let's see how attempt number 3 goes. Here's my little mold, and I'm going to unmold it and see how this turns out. So here it is. This side's a little concave, but hopefully this side. And there it is! And show you how it rolls. Isn't that marvelous? It's perfectly spherical and clear. Love it. There it is on my tray. And traditionally this is served with kinoko and kuromitsu, and kuromitsu is a kind of dark syrup, brown sugar kind of syrup. I couldn't find it at my local grocer, so I'm going to use this instead. And this is some dark honey. It's forest honey and it comes from Germany. My little sphere is running away. And I'm going to put a dab of that on the side. So I did find some kinoko, and kinoko is roasted soybean flour, and it's often served with desserts. So I'm going to put a little bit of that next to my mochi. I'm gonna add a little dollop of honey as well. There's that. There's a raindrop cake, and it's so beautiful, I don't want to eat it. So let's try this by itself. And there it is. It just kind of breaks. It looks just like Jello. All right, let's give that a taste. Itadakimasu. And it tastes like water. I put a little bit of sugar in there, but it's practically undetectable. It has a really delightful texture to it. It's a very, very soft gelatin, unlike any kind of jello I've had before, and it tastes like water. So I'm gonna have a little bit with some kinoko, which is some of this roasted soy powder, and I'm gonna have some little honey on there as well. So now it'll be much more like a mochi. All right, here we go. And it has kind of a little bit of a sweet peanut buttery kind of taste, and the texture is still kind of very watery and jello-like. It's very, very interesting texture. It's just, for just a second, it's like a jello, and then it just instantly dissolves into water. And in terms of desserts go, it's pretty bland. But a really fun novelty thing to make, and once you get the proportions and the recipe right, it's actually pretty simple to make as well. But definitely a showstopper, definitely gorgeous, and yeah, there you go, raindrop cake. Hello my beautiful lovelies, hi, it's Emmy, welcome back. Today I'm going to be making the clear potato chip. If you've not heard of this, this has been done, so I'm not the first by any means. Corinne did it, Barry did it recently, and many of you requested it, so here I am to test it. It was in my little recipe idea book, and now I've brought it to the surface because today I'm going to make a clear potato chip. If you haven't heard about this potato chip, it's what I just said it was. It's clear. A clear or transparent potato chip, and it's invented by Hamid Salman at Diva at the Met in Vancouver. So he shared a recipe in the Vancouver Sun, and that's the recipe that I'm going to be basing my recipe off of today. I might make a few tweaks as we go along. The ingredients are pretty straightforward. You're going to use potato starch. I just spilled this everywhere, but I found this in the health food section at my grocery store, but you can also find it in the Asian market. It makes great karaage. If you've never made karaage or Japanese fried chicken with potato starch, highly recommend it. I'll put my recipe down below. And then you're going to need some potatoes, and you're going to need some salt and olive oil, and that's pretty much it. This recipe is a little bit tedious in that it requires a bit of time, so I'm going to do part of it today, and then I'm going to do part of it tomorrow after the chips dry. We're going to take 8 Yukon Gold potatoes. I'm using 10 because mine are pretty small. I'm going to scrub them nice and clean, and then we take a sharp knife and cut a 1 centimeter slice down the middle of this. Don't go all the way through, just a centimeter. And then we're going to toss it with a half a cup of olive oil and a tablespoon of kosher salt. Coat the potatoes really well, and then place them onto a baking sheet, and we're going to put it into a 450-degree oven for 25 minutes. After 25 minutes, we're going to take the potatoes and place them into a bowl and cover them with very hot water, 95 degrees centigrade, about 200 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's just below boiling. Then we're going to let the potatoes sit in the hot water for 2 hours at room temperature, and then once they cool down, we're going to strain the potatoes out and reserve your stock, and place this in the refrigerator and allow it to chill completely. Here's my stock, nice and chilled. 2 cups of the stock and 4 tablespoons of potato starch. Potato starch kind of has the consistency of cornstarch, but when you deep fry with it, it makes such a crispy, crunchy crust. I love it. Look, I have potato starch all over my sleeve. Isn't that great? Oh man. Pardon the potato starch. Oh look, it's on my shirt too. Isn't that great? Ugh. So we want to whisk that in there and incorporate it before we turn on the heat. We're going to bring this to a boil until it forms a clear gel. Oh yes, quick. Starting to thicken. I'm reducing my heat. Oh my God, look at this. That is a gel, y'all. That happened fast. So what we're supposed to do is take this beautiful gel we just made and spread it on a parchment-lined baking sheet to a thickness about 3 millimeters thick, and place it in a 135-degree oven and cook it in there for 2 hours. So my oven only goes to 170 degrees, and after watching Corinne's video, it is very easy to burn them. So what I'm going to do is do a little test. I'm going to do the 170 degrees and then kind of keep an eye on it, maybe keep the door ajar a little bit. And then I'm also going to use a food dehydrator. This is Rompo Peel's food dehydrator, which I've had forever. I used to dry mushrooms in this when I used to forage for mushrooms when I lived in Montana. And I'm going to see how well this works. I just have some parchment on here as well, so we'll do a little side-by-side comparison. So in the original recipe, it says to just make an even layer, and then after it dries, to break it into shards. But in other recipes, I've seen people make little chip-like shapes, little ovoids, so I think I'm going to do both of those. Just use a spoon and dollop some on there. It actually says to make them pretty thick, 3 millimeters. So that's pretty thick. In the original recipe, it says to make 1 sheet and then to break them into the size of playing cards. So I'm going to make my chips pretty big. Because who likes a scrawny chip? I do, actually. Sometimes scrawny chips are nice. That's kind of sexy, this gel stuff, man. Ow! I'm going to test the big version too. There's that. Now I'm going to do the food dehydrator version. Spread it into a layer. So far this is coming out pretty well. I feel like there's not as much stress, say, as something like the jiggly cake, the Japanese jiggly cake. Oh my gosh, after seeing so many failures, I was like, ugh, that's so much pressure. So I got 3 trays of gel, and now I'm going to plug this in and let it sit for a couple of hours and see how it goes. What we want them to do is to dry completely nice and firm. We don't want these to burn. I'm imagining that the dehydrator might take a little bit longer than the oven because I think this is going to be at a lower temperature, but I like the fact that I don't have to worry that this will burn at all. So I'm gonna let these dry and I'll be back to finish the rest of the recipe. All right, lovelies, I am back and my chips have sufficiently dried. As you can see, there are 2 different sizes. This came out of the dehydrator and this came out of the oven. So my oven temperature only goes to 170 degrees Fahrenheit. My dehydrator was significantly cooler. Took twice as long. It took about 4 hours. The dehydrator really didn't shrink all that much, while the ones that were in the conventional oven, they shrunk to about 1/3 of their size. They are much harder and much thicker. The recipe calls for frying these in oil at 350 degrees, but because these are so thin, I think these are just gonna scorch. I'm gonna avoid any browning, so I'm gonna cook it at a lower temperature. I can always increase the temperature. And here is the giant chip that I did in the oven, and I'm gonna break this one up as the original recipe calls for. Oil's at 275. Let's use one of the thinner chips and see how that turns out. All right, here we go. Using a little pair of chopsticks here. Oh yeah. Sizzling a little bit, and it's turning glassy. Awesome. Ooh, popping a little bit. It's important to make sure you get these as dry as possible because you don't want these to pop too much. Okay, a little bit longer. Don't want these to get too close. It's turning totally clear. Yes! Love that. I'm gonna increase the temperature to 300. This is an induction burner, so I can do that, which is really nice. Okay, I'll take this first chip out. That looks gorgeous. All right, so now I'm gonna try a thicker one. This was the one that was dried out in the oven. Place that one in there. See some tiny bubbles here. Now I'm going to crank this up to 350. So while my oil is coming up to temp, I'm going to use the potatoes that I made the stock with. I don't want these to go to waste. I'm going to attempt to make tater tots. Peeled some of the potatoes. Now I'm going to grate them on a coarse grater here. These potatoes are probably about 90% cooked. They're a little bit hard in the middle. Now I'm going to transfer my grated spuds into there. Garlic powder, black pepper, salt. Just for some added heat, a little bit of cayenne, not too much. Mix this together, and I'm gonna check on the consistency of this. It holds together pretty well. It's probably about a teaspoon of potato, squeezing and kind of rolling into a little cylinder. You know, a tater tot. There's my other tater tot. There we go. You don't want to overcrowd the pan too much because it'll drop the temperature too much. But I don't have too many tater tots. Tater tots, roll them around a little bit in the oil. Okay, so these are falling apart a little bit. You might want to use some egg in your tater tot mixture because my tater tots are falling apart. That's not good. My tater tots are turning into tater dust. So we should probably put an egg in this, I think. Check this out. I have a few quail eggs left over from my egg recipe. Look at that. Quail egg. Mix that into there. Oh yeah, much better. Oh yeah. Here are the tater tots without egg and with egg. So I added one little quail egg to my remaining potato shreds and they came together much better. So now we are ready to taste. My glass potato chips turned out beautifully. I am so excited about these. They look gorgeous, absolutely transparent, clear, peppered with bubbles and salt. Can't wait to taste them. All right, here we go. Itadakimasu. Man. They don't really taste that much like a potato chip. The texture is much more brittle and crunchy and kind of shardy and sharp. Although the thinness is very good. I think that cooking them in the dehydrator really lended to a really nice, thin, crisp potato chip. It's kind of like a kettle cooked potato chip in terms of thickness, but much more harder in terms of a crunch. There is a potato flavor, but it's lacking that really great, intense potato flavor, which I love in a good potato chip. I think I over-seasoned these. I don't think I needed to put as much salt as I did after they came out of the fryer. I forgot that we seasoned these as well when we made the stock. So yeah, gorgeous, stunning looking flavor, not that great. Texture, all right, but stunning presentation, just beautiful. So here are my leftover potato tater tots, and this is batch number 1, which was made without any binder. And as I was frying, the poor little thing started falling apart. I do like this kind of little raggedness that comes with these potatoes because they look a little bit more like tater tots. This batch I added a little quail egg because I only had a little bit of spud left, and it was perfect. And these look a little bit more like dumplings, but they held their shape beautifully. And yeah, let's give them a taste. Let me grab some ketchup first. Ketchup, because you gotta have ketchup with your tater tots. All right. Let's try batch number 1 first without any accompaniment. Those are actually delicious. Soft and buttery, well cooked in the middle, nice and crunchy on the outside, great potato flavor. Perfect amount of garlic powder in there too. Enough to give it a little bit of complexity, but still tastes very potatoey. Delicious. I like that a lot. I don't like how it fell apart in my frying pan though. So let's try this one that had some egg in it. That actually is very good too. Has less of the flaky potatoey crust on the outside, but held together very well. Kind of like mashed potato in the middle. Great flavor all around. Delicious. I think the perfect recipe would probably be a little bit of a hybrid between these two. It would be a little less egg or more potato, so it would be a little bit more flaky on the outside, and then you've got the perfect tater tot. But this was just made with leftover potatoes, so I feel like it's a win-win situation because I didn't let my potatoes go to waste. Oh, I didn't have one with ketchup. Now that tastes like breakfast. That's delicious. Yes, that is definitely worth making. Make yourself some tater tots. Actually, I'm not a huge fan of just regular tater tots, but homemade tater tots, do it. It's so good. Greetings, my beautiful lovelies, it's Emmy and welcome back. So today I'm going to be making a transparent lemon meringue pie. So many of you want me to make this, so here I am today. I thought this was a trend from a couple years ago, which it was, but it came back to my memory thanks to Helen Rosner's tweet, and I did a little bit of research, and apparently in January, a chef named James Dempsey in the UK made his version of the clear lemon meringue pie, calling it Lemon Meringue Pie 2.0. I'm very curious to see what the taste and textures of this pie are. Is it even going to taste like lemon meringue pie? I don't know, the ingredients sound legitimate, and the recipe that I'm going to be using comes from Tastemade UK. The recipe seems very thorough, which gives me hope that this recipe is going to turn out. So let me walk you through the steps of what I've done so far. So first we're going to make our pie dough. So in the bowl of a food processor, add 350 grams of all-purpose flour, 2 tablespoons of powdered sugar, and a ½ teaspoon of salt. Give this a couple pulses to mix everything together. And then you're gonna add 130 grams of chilled butter that you've cut into small cubes. Now you're gonna pulse this in your food processor until everything looks like fine breadcrumbs. Then you're gonna take a medium egg and beat that up. And then while your food processor is running, drizzle your egg in. And then you're gonna add 100 to 120 milliliters of ice water, just until your dough forms a ball. At this point, you're gonna tip this out, press the dough out into a disc, gathering any loose crumbs, and then sandwich it between 2 pieces of parchment paper and roll it out. Once you've rolled it out into a vaguely round shape, you're going to line your dish. I'm using a standard 9-inch pie dish because I wanted my filling to be nice and tall. I used some scissors to trim off any excess, and then I rolled it under. So this is how I like to crimp my pie crust. I take my thumb and pointer finger from both hands and make little bird's beaks. And then I interlock them together, pressing them and going all the way around the pie dish, forming lovely little crimps. Now that everything is shaped, wrap it in plastic wrap and place this in the refrigerator and allow it to chill for 1 hour. So preheat your oven to 400 degrees, take your chilled pie crust out and use a fork to prick the bottom of the pie crust. This will keep it from bubbling in the oven. Then take some foil and line the pie crust, and then you can add some pie weights. In this case, I'm using some dried lentils. Then place this whole thing into the oven for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, take the pie crust out, remove the foil and the beans. And then you're gonna take an egg wash, which is just 1 egg beaten up, and you're gonna brush that liberally on the inside of the pie crust and on the edges. Now you really wanna fill this in, make sure that it's completely covered, and all those tiny holes that you made with the fork, you wanna fill those in with the egg wash. Then place this back into the oven and bake it for another 10 to 15 minutes until the crust is golden. The crust is complete. Now we're going to make the clear portion of the pie. So in a saucepan, you're going to measure 600 milliliters of water and add 350 grams of castor sugar. Now this is castor sugar. I purchased this in the baking aisle at the supermarket, and it is finer than granulated sugar, so it melts much more readily, but it's not as fine as powdered sugar. Powdered sugar also contains cornstarch to keep it from clumping. So it's really fine stuff, but it makes it really easy to dissolve into meringues and desserts. So it's important to gently heat up this sugar syrup. You want the sugar to be completely dissolved, but you don't want it to come to a boil. So I heated mine up to about 120, 130 degrees. At this point, you're going to sprinkle 24 grams of powdered unflavored gelatin on top of this mixture and whisk it in. So once all the gelatin is melted, you're going to add 1 tablespoon of citric acid and 1 teaspoon of lemon extract. Combine everything and allow this to cool. So I allowed mine to cool to about 100 degrees before I carefully poured it into my cooled crust. And that filled it perfectly right to the very top. And then I very carefully placed this into my refrigerator, and you're gonna allow it to chill for at least 6 hours. I went ahead and left mine overnight. I've never actually made a lemon meringue pie. I've whipped up plenty of meringues before, but never one intentionally for a lemon meringue pie. In a small saucepan, we're gonna combine 230 grams of castor sugar with 100 milliliters of water. So we're gonna heat this up to 130 degrees centigrade or 265 degrees Fahrenheit. Now we don't want to stir this or agitate it because it can crystallize, but we can swirl it a little bit. I'm going to set this to the side. Now we're going to take 4 egg whites and we're going to beat them up in our stand mixer. This is how I prefer to separate my eggs, with my impeccably clean hands. You choose your method. Now we're going to squeeze in about a ½ teaspoon of fresh lemon juice. Plop those in there and begin whisking. Wait, is this plugged in? I always do that. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we are at soft peaks, is at 267 degrees. Whipped up nicely. It came together very quickly, which I was very, very pleased with. Nice and shiny and glossy, nice stiff peaks. Isn't it wild? What is it about transparency and glossiness that is just so lovely? I don't know, but I love it. It's beautiful. I can't wait to test this. So rather than mounting all the meringue on top of the entire pie, which is traditional for a lemon pie, I'm going to go the route of James Dempsey, where I noticed he did a slice of pie and then put the meringue on top in a little star-shaped pattern on top. So I'm going to attempt that. All right, let's see if we can get a slice of this creation. Now I've got my knife sharpened. Ooh, yeah. Oh, wow, that is unlike any pie I've ever sliced before. I noticed that it's catching a little bit. It's tearing my pie, which I'm not happy with. So I got this little butane lighter. Ooh, let there be flame. Heat that a little bit. I did it! I did it! I did it! There it is! The clear pie. Oh yes. And it jiggles so beautifully. I haven't gotten the meringue onto it yet, but there it is, it's jiggling. So I've got a big pastry bag fitted with a 1M tip, I believe. Boom, yes. Boom. This is making me so happy. Can you see that? Oh, that's gorgeous. Doomp. Doomp. I'm gonna put another layer right here. Doompy. Doompies. Doompies. Always wanted one of those little creme brulee torches. I found this one I really liked because it uses the same type of canister butane cartridge as my little stovetop burner. So great, I don't have to buy extra cartridges. Easy. This is made by Iwatani. Just lick that, just a little. Alrighty, finally, I get to taste the clear lemon meringue pie. I'm so pleased with how this turned out. Now let's see how it tastes. Okay, here we go. Oh, I don't want to cut into it, but here we go. Whoa, it's very jellied. Look at that. Ah, it's totally clear. Amazing. Okay, my crust popped off. I'm gonna put my crust right here. Alrighty, here we go. Itadakimasu. It is odd. The first thing I taste immediately is the flavor of gelatin. Gelatin to me has a very distinctive flavor to it. Even though I used unflavored gelatin, gelatin in itself has a flavor, and I taste that. But then you get the punch of the citric acid, which is nice and acidic. I really like the amount of acidity in that. It reminds me of a puckery lemon. And then you get the lemon extract flavor, which tastes like lemon yogurt. But it goes really well with citric acid, a really believable lemon flavor. The crust is delicious, buttery and flaky, absolutely delicious. It's the jello-y center that's very strange. It has almost the texture of a jello jiggler. It's firmer than typical jello that you have in the jello salad. It's got a firmer jiggle. The meringue topping is fluffy and light, like marshmallow fluff, sweet, and actually goes really well with the tangy sour filling. It's just very unexpected. You have this jello jiggler combined with meringue topping and buttery pie crust. It's a very playful dessert, playful textures, and it just aesthetically is beautiful and stunning. And it is a bit of a bear to make. So, would I recommend attempting the transparent pie? Perhaps, if you've got some time on your hands. Otherwise, maybe stick with a typical lemon meringue pie. Greetings, my beautiful lovelies. It's Emmy. How are you? It's great to see you and welcome back. Now today I'm going to be making clear tomato soup. So many of you got in touch with me via social media to make this clear tomato soup. The clear trend was probably a couple years ago now. I've got a little playlist. I'll put a link down below. I've made clear lemon meringue pie. I've made clear potato chips. And in that hubbub was the clear tomato soup, which I never made. Now, my friend Barry Lewis has made this, and I looked at his recipe, and I also found a recipe from Epicurious for tomato consomme, which is what we're going to be making. Consomme is a French term for a clear broth that is clarified with a very specific technique. We're going to be using egg whites, and it sounds totally nuts. We're pouring it right into the soup. When we cook the soup, the egg whites coagulate, drawing all the impurities in the broth, creating a perfectly clear and lovely soup. So that is reason enough to attempt this recipe. I've never clarified soup using this technique before, although I have used it to clarify coffee grounds before. It's a Scandinavian style of making coffee. Absolutely interesting and delicious. And I think I'm most curious about two things. Of course, number one, the taste. Number two, how clear can we get this? Tomatoes are very pigmented. They have lots of lycopene. They're red. How can we get something that's red into something clear? Egg whites, apparently. Egg whites. Alrighty, let's do this. So I'll put a link down below to a printable version of this recipe. The version that you will see filmed is a half batch because I only had half the amount of tomatoes. We're going to first start with some fennel. This is fennel. It has a lovely anise smell. It has this great big bulb. We're just going to use the bulb portion, and we're going to chop that up coarsely. Next, you're going to take 2 medium onions and chop those as well, along with 2 cloves of garlic. In a Dutch oven, you're going to add a couple tablespoons of oil and add your fennel, your onion, and your garlic. And you're going to saute these and kind of sweat these down for about 10 minutes until all the vegetables are nice and tender. So while that's sauteing, you're going to take your plum tomatoes and quarter them and then give them a whiz in your blender so you have a nice tomato puree. After 10 minutes of sauteing, add your tomato puree to the pot. Give that a good stir. Bring it up to a boil, then reduce it to a simmer and cook it for about 20 minutes. Next, you're going to pour the soup through a fine mesh strainer to remove all of the solids and gently press that to get all of that precious juice. Now we have this beautiful broth. Now, in the Epicurious recipe, they said to bring this up to a boil and then add your egg whites. In other recipes, it said it was important to cool the broth first and then bring it up to a boil to ensure that the eggs do not coagulate too quickly. So I've got conflicting reports. In Barry's video, he said to cool it before bringing it up to boil. So that's what I did. Well, here we are. Here is the cooled broth. It's not nearly as red, but it's definitely not clear. See that? Still have some tomato particles in there. And it's about to get even more cloudy. And in this bowl, I have 4 egg whites. And to that, I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of parsley, about a tablespoon of tarragon, some sliced basil, about a tablespoon as well. Now we're going to add some crushed ice and whisk it until it's frothy. So nuts. That I'm going to call frothy. Now we're going to take a saucepan. Now we're going to add our frothy eggness. And now we're going to slowly bring it to a boil. And as the eggs cook, it should create a raft. The first time I saw this, of course, was from Jacques Pepin. In one of his many episodes on PBS, I saw him do this technique and I was like, what? Totally works. But I've never done it myself. So as this raft is formed, it's going to create a natural break in there, and when that break happens, we're going to enlarge it slightly so that the broth can kind of percolate through, and we're going to simmer this for 15 minutes. I've got a fine mesh strainer in a bowl, and you can use some paper towels, but I'm going to opt to use these. I found this the last time I went to H Mart, which is a Korean supermarket, and they are specifically for filtering soups, but you can also use them to steam breads and such, but they're very fine mesh. So don't have these, it's okay. You can just use a couple layers of paper towels. So I've never used these before, and
looks like this square, and I'm going to open it up. I like that they're nice and big. Pour the hot broth over. And it's got a pale yellow color to it, but it's definitely clear. And look at that. It has a bit of a yellow cast to it, so I think I'm going to filter it one more time, and then I'm going to cool this completely. This soup is supposed to be served cold. Alrighty, my lovelies, I am back, and here is my finished tomato consomme. It is clear. There's no particulate in it whatsoever. No floaties, no nothing. Absolutely clear, but it does have a color to it. And from what I have researched online, this is what tomato consomme is supposed to look like. It has a slight orangish yellowish color to it. It does. So I filtered this twice through my paper, and it still came out this way. It doesn't have any fat on it whatsoever. The filter paper did a great job removing any of that, and it is beautifully clear, but it is not clear like water. So, is it possible to make clear tomato soup? Yes and no. Is it going to be clear like water? Very skeptical, but it is clear, clear, clear in the sense that there's no particulate in this whatsoever. No floaties, no nothing, none of the herb, not even the pepper that we added to this is visible. Nothing. It's absolutely clear. It's beautiful. So now let's serve up our beautiful consomme, our clear tomato soup. And there it is. It does have a little tinge to it, but beautifully clear. It almost looks like a watered down kind of apple juice. Itadakimasu. Wow. It has a very clear tomato flavor to it. Wow. Very concentrated tomato flavor. Which makes a lot of sense. We added no water to this whatsoever. This is just tomato concentrate. It's kind of nuts. From 2.5 pounds of tomatoes, I probably have about a cup of broth here. Very, very concentrated. We did cook this for quite a while. It's been reduced, so there's a nice mouthfeel to it. It's almost like chicken stock. It has that kind of body to it, yet this is completely vegetarian. I also taste the onion and the anise. The anise from the fennel and the basil are pretty subtle. It's there and it's infused, but it's not strong whatsoever. It's very nicely seasoned in terms of salt. A very refreshing, light soup. What happens when you drink it like a drink? It still tastes like tomato soup. It's amazing. It tastes a lot like vegetable soup, but it doesn't have any chunks in it, and it's not as thick. Amazing. So there you have it. Mostly clear tomato soup. The answer to our question, can you make clear tomato soup? Yes. Will it be crystal clear like water? Not quite. Will it be delicious? Yes, it will be.
Greetings, my beautiful lovelies. It's Emmy. How are you? It's great to see you and welcome back. Today we are going to be making clear milk. What in the world you say? What in the world you say? Yes, I said clear milk. And this is a real thing. This is actually based on a historical recipe. It was popular in the 1700s in the Great Britain, and it was called milk punch. Now, from my understanding, there are a couple types of milk punch. This is a clarified milk punch. There's also a milk punch that's made with milk. I think it's popular in the south of the United States, and the milk in that recipe lends a nice milky, creamy quality to the drink, while in this drink, the clarified milk punch, and it creates a crystal clear beverage that's alcoholic, but still has a very nice silky quality to it. So let's step back a little bit. So the clarifying process is very, very interesting and is the main reason why I want to make this drink, making milk clear. But more than that, I'm very curious about the science about how the drink gets clarified. And after reading about it, it is very similar to how you would clarify a soup, like a consommé in French cookery. If you missed my clear tomato soup recipe, I did a very similar technique. I'll put a link to that video down below. And in that technique, you use an egg white to use the proteins in the egg to grab and coagulate and grab onto all the impurities in the tomato soup, yielding a clear broth, which you then filter and separate from the raft of protein that's created. Aren't those great words? Raft, coagulate, proteins, casein, whey, all those are really great words, and we are going to be talking about those in this recipe. Now, there are many recipes. The technique is generally the same. We're going to be using alcohol and some kind of acid to coagulate or to create those proteins to kind of bind together. We're talking specifically the casein proteins, the whey proteins, or the proteins that are in the liquid of the milk will remain, but those are clear. But the casein proteins will bind together just like they do in cheese making and grab all those impurities and create a raft, and then we'll separate our drink. I chose the simplest recipe that I could find, and it is based on the oldest recipe of clarified milk punch that we can find from the 1700s, and it's Mary Rocket's Citrus Milk Punch. It was originally published in Dan Woodrich's book Punch, and it's been adapted by Dan Sousa over at America's Test Kitchen, and I found this on the Splendid Table. But I will put links down below to everything that I'm referencing in case you're curious. So the first thing we need to do is to flavor our brandy. So in this jar, which doesn't need to be this large, I've taken some brandy, and it has the zest of 1 lemon and 1 orange, and it's been soaking in the brandy and infusing it with that citrusy flavor. So it says 18 hours up to 2 days. So this should smell really nice. Let's see if I can get this jar open. Ooh, indeed. We've got the perfume of alcohol tinged with a lovely fragrance of orange and lemon. Oh, it smells so good. Ah. Okay, we're going to strain our brandy and get the peels removed. They've done their job. And you can see a little slick of oil on top. That's so cool. So I saved the orange and the lemon that I removed the zest from, and now we're going to juice them because we need those lovely juices. Orange, naked lemon. So I'm going to use a little strainer, if I can find it. Here it is. And I'm going to squeeze my lemon juice into this. Oops, did I tear this? All right, squeezing my big lemon. Now, rather than saying the juice of 1 lemon, you should use the measurements, which is either, what is it? It's a 1/4 cup. So 1/4 cup of lemon juice. And I'm going to do the same. Actually, it's more lemon juice to lime juice. So it's a 1/4 cup plus 1 tablespoon of lemon juice and a 1/4 cup of orange juice. Emeril Lagasse taught me how to do this a long time ago. You take a fork and you stick it in there to kind of act as your reamer to get the most juice out of your lemon. You get all that into there. I think I'm going to need more juice of the lemon. All right, measure our juice. Okay, do the same thing with our orange. Strain the juice. Orange. Half cup. Almost. I'm gonna go grab another lemon because I need a little bit more lemon. Okay, so we've got our lemon and orange juice freshly squeezed. Okay, to the brandy, we're adding 1 cup of sugar. Plus a little extra. Boop. And whisk that together. We want to dissolve the sugar along with the orange juice and lemon juice we squeezed. and some water. This will help dissolve the sugar. Ooh, it smells good. Very boozy, but the lemon and the orange, very nice. Okay, this is definitely dissolved. So one thing I noticed in all the recipes for clarified milk punch, it specifically said to add the brandy mixture to the milk and not the other way around. Okay, let's pour this into the pitcher. Ooh, you're getting close there, girl. Whoa, up to the very tip top. Nice. So we need some milk. We need 1 cup of milk, specifically whole milk. And those of you that don't live in the United States, whole milk means full fat milk, not any fat removed, just good old milk. Okay, milk to the bowl first. So we have 1 cup of whole milk in this glass bowl here. Now we're going to take our brandy juice mixture and add it to the milk slowly. Here we go. Whoop. Okay, it's sputtering and splashing. Oh, and it's thickening. Oh my gosh, it's totally thickening. Look at this. Oh, it's so cool. Can you see it? It's doing its curdle thing. See, it's kind of thick. Yo, okay. Wow, that's cool. There's a lot of liquid. Why do I keep banging the side of the bowl? Why? Okay, here we go. The last of it, and we definitely have curdles. Now it says to gently stir it, although I think it's pretty well mixed already. So we rest this for at least 30 minutes, or we can cover this and let it chill in the refrigerator for 24 hours before we decant and separate the chunks from the sauce. Not the sauce, but you know, the water. Look. Curdles. Isn't that amazing? Wow. Okay, lovelies, I'm gonna cover this, let this rest, and we'll come back and separate all this and then give this a taste on ice, you know, like 17th, 18th century, I mean, Great Britain. Alrighty, see you in a little bit. All right, so this has been sitting for a couple hours now, and you can see those beautiful curds. So now we are going to filter it. So, got a bowl here, and it said to filter it through a coffee filter. When I did the clear tomato soup, the consomme, I used these, and I found these at the Korean grocery store, and here they are. And these are filters, kind of like paper towels, and these are all the different ways you can use them. You can use them to steam foods, but right here and here you can see they're also used to filter out your broths. This is what it looks like. It looks like a fabric, but if you look closely, it's knitted kind of material, a bit stretchy. And what I like about this particular material for my setup is that it's going to fit inside of my strainer. I have these coffee filters. These are for a pour over coffee situation. So you open it like this and you put it inside a cone holder. And doing this for this would not be ideal because this cone cannot hold the volume of liquid I need it to. So instead I'm going to use this filter cloth on top of my strainer. Okay, so I'm going to ladle this mixture into my filter and let it slowly clarify. Let's see what we got. It's totally clear. Oh my gosh, look at that. Yeah, baby. I love it when a plan comes together. Okay, let me show you this up close. Clarified milk punch coming at ya. Clear, clear, clear milk. Yeah, baby, clear milk. It's working. Look, that's what's up top. Chunks, the curds, and down below.
beautiful clear perfection. Oh, this feels great. This is awesome. Yo. So I'm gonna pass this through twice. And then I'm going to get some ice and serve this up and give it a taste. Alrighty, my lovelies, I am back. This is my double filtered milk punch, and it is incredibly clear. I am so happy. So what I've got going here are two separate filtration steps to take this murky, curdly, chunky concoction and create this beautiful clear punch. Just gonna scoop some ice into a glass. So got a glass of ice, and now we're going to put the clear, look at that, look how clear it is. It has an orange, it has a yellow tinge to it, and I think that probably comes from the combination of brandy and the citrus juice that we added. Look at that. That's milk. Look how clear. So beautiful. Alrighty, my first taste of clear milk, or milk punch, clarified milk punch. Alrighty, here we go. Cheers. And Happy New Year to all my beautiful lovelies. I hope this coming year brings you all that you hoped and wished for, and that 22 with its trials and tribulations and good things taught you something about yourself as well. Alrighty, my lovelies. Cheers. Wow, that's very nice. It's sweet and it's very floral. I didn't expect it to be as floral scented as it is. It has a citrus flavor to it that is present, but it's not sour at all. It's actually quite sweet because of the amount of sugar we put in there. So this is kind of reminiscent of a dessert wine or a dessert cordial, but it has a really great viscosity and mouthfeel that's not syrupy, but present and full-bodied. And yes, silky, smooth, delicious. I love it. Does it taste of milk? No, I don't think it tastes milky or dairied in my opinion. Maybe simply because it is clear. I don't have those associations, but it doesn't feel creamy, but it does have a very nice smooth mouthfeel to it. It's lovely, and served on ice, it is so nice. I love it. And I'm not a cordial drinker at all, or much of a drinker, but this would be lovely. This would be actually really lovely for a New Year's party, or any little kind of Festivus for that matter. Beautiful, and very easy to make. Alrighty, my lovelies, I hope you enjoyed that one. I hope you learned something. Please share this video with your friends. Follow me on social media. I love so much from hearing from you. And check out my website. Have a happy and safe New Year, and I shall see you in my next video. Toodaloo. Take care. Bye. Happy New Year. This should be bottled up and given as gifts. I should have done this as a holiday gift. There's always next year.